So the Philadelphia Eagles just got two major updates. One is good news and one is bad news. We'll talk about how they impact the game this weekend. Also, should the Eagles even have a conversation about their backup quarterback? Hence, do you want to see Kenny Pickett or Tanner McKee? And Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni and a former Eagles legend had a blow up after the game, or was it blown out of proportion? We'll talk about all of that and more. But welcome into A to Z Philly. I'm RB. Do me a huge favor. Like this video and subscribe to our channel as we continue to grow. Really appreciate all the support. And we started off with just a side piece of news coming out of the Eagles world today. Shout out to former Eagle Deshaun Jackson, who is now finalizing an agreement to take the head coaching job at Delaware State. I don't know if DJax has ever coached or if he has any experience, but man, he's a sharp mind. He was a really, really good player. Huge fan of DJax. Wish he never got moved. Wish he would have won a ring with the Birds, but happy for him. Shout out to him. We'll see if he makes anything out of his new coaching career. So shout out to Deshaun Jackson. But speaking of another wide receiver, we will start off with the good news in terms of the matchup this weekend. The Eagles will not have to game plan for CeeDee Lamb, who is one of the most talented receivers in the NFL currently. The Cowboys have ruled out CeeDee Lamb for the remainder of the season with a shoulder injury. He has dealt with it through the last several games. He's played through it. He's been very good as well. I mean, CeeDee is, one of the top receivers in the league. He's consistent, and he's been really a huge part as to why the Cowboys offense has got going. Cooper Rush relying on him a lot, and it probably made his injury worse. So CeeDee Lamb is out against the Eagles, and that should be a huge sigh of relief in terms of game planning. And before we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, let me just tell you why the Cowboys are the Cowboys, okay? We look at the NFC updated standings right now. The Philadelphia Eagles are 12-3, and they have another opportunity to clinch the division this weekend, right? And I believe they will do that. I do think they'll beat the Cowboys. And the Eagles need to keep winning games. Don't get that mistaken, right? Like the Eagles need to still try to get that 2 seed, and if not, be the 3 seed, because you don't want to play that many road games in the playoffs. Simple as that. You have to keep trying to win. Tough loss against the Commanders, but we discussed it in detail, and I think with the injuries and stuff, I'm not overly concerned. But what I am happy about is that the Cowboys, who are now coming in this week acting like they're going to beat the Eagles and they're overly confident, the Cowboys are so pitiful that they are 7-8. They are mathematically eliminated from the postseason, and they keep winning. And they keep winning. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually happy for once that the Cowboys are winning, because they have, 1, destroyed their draft positioning, 2, have now somehow instilled another level of confidence in Jerry Jones that maybe they actually are just decent, not good enough to make the playoffs and then get embarrassed, but just be good enough to stay in talks, right? And they've beat teams in the last several weeks like the Giants and the Carolina Panthers. And they did beat the Commanders. Shout out to them. That was a good win. They beat the Buccaneers barely. But the Cowboys, and I saw the look on Jerry Jones' face after that game. He was looking at Mike McCarthy, grabbed him like his good old beloved little son, and he was having some deep convo with him. I actually think he might keep him around. He might retain Mike McCarthy. And if that happens, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to personally thank the Dallas Cowboys for just staying in the conversation. And, oh man, if they extend Mike McCarthy, this would be absolute poetry. Anyway, man, the Cowboys have done the worst thing possible for their team, and the Eagles are going to put them away this weekend again anyway and clinch the division. But I just thought that was pretty funny to share. Now, in terms of the Philadelphia Eagles, where do they go from here? Well, they made a roster move, or a couple roster moves today, but the most important one is they signed quarterback Ian Book to the practice squad. And when this happened, I was thinking, and I'm like, where does that name sound familiar? So if you go back to 2022, at the end of the season when Jalen Hurts had an injury and, Gardner Minshew was coming in, Minshew Mania, right? Living in his van. And he's like, all right, I'm going to fill in and be the guy and trying to win a couple games for the Eagles just to get to the postseason healthy. Ian Book was also on the practice squad, and he was the name that was talked about as potentially being elevated, right? I don't think he was actually really going to start. I mean, if Minshew got hurt, sure. I think he was banged up a bit, but Ian Book was like the emergency guy, the next guy up. He was a really good college starter for Notre Dame, but he's only had one start in the NFL, and it went pretty bad for the Saints. So I don't think Ian Book is some name to, actually consider as a potential quarterback. It would have to take a lot to get there. But the fact they signed him to the practice squad made you think a little bit, right? And that kind of signals where we are going in terms of Jalen Hurts. So for a second straight day, the Eagles listed Jalen Hurts as not practicing due to the concussion, leaning more towards the sign that he's probably not going to play again this weekend. Eagles Fan Central put this on Twitter, and I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know down in the comments. They say, I think I speak for a lot of people. If Hurts is unavailable Sunday, Tanner McKee is the man who should be lining up under center no matter what. I said this last game. I got a lot of heat for it. Look, Tanner McKee, I know he's only played in the preseason, but just his presence, the way he's looked confidence-wise throwing the ball, this guy can sling it, man. Nothing against Kenny Pickett, and I still think Pickett will start and will play because he is the more polished, more experienced player, right? Former first-round pick. But I really do believe this guy Tanner McKee is a hidden gem. And just give him one chance. You know what I mean? I would actually try Tanner McKee because I think the Cowboys stink anyway. I know they're playing good football. Cooper Rush looks better. They still suck. And I think Tanner McKee could sit back there and really just tear apart that defense, who is still pretty low in the rankings, who has been bad all season. And I think Tanner McKee could have a really good game. But nonetheless, I understand the decision to stay with Kenny Pickett. And Kenny Pickett confirms today that he is good to go for Sunday. He is excited for the opportunity and feels even better this week since he'll have a full week to prepare. And I think that's a very important element there. Getting thrown into the fire, not really playing in a year, and just having to go through it. There was probably a lot that he wasn't ready for, right? So now going through the motions of a practice week, instilling more into the playbook, more that he can do, right? Because he is a much different player than Jalen Hurts. I think he'll be able to build that confidence and probably look even better. However, the thing I am concerned about is in that post-game presser, he mentioned multiple times about the ribs, right? I'll see how I feel. Apparently the x-rays were fine. And the Eagles are going to do damage control nonetheless, right? They're not going to say who they're going to play for competitive advantage. Nick Sirianni commented on it today as well about, who will be the quarterback on Sunday, or are you just hiding it for a competitive reason? He says it's a little bit of both. That's obviously nonsense. It can't be both. It has to be one or the other. So the Eagles are not going to tell us who's playing. I just hope that Kenny is healthy. I hope his ribs are okay. I hope his elbow's okay, and that he can go out there and win a game. Whoever the quarterback is, we're going to back them, right? But they have to win this game. Don't make it interesting, right? Don't go down to the last minute and maybe lose this game. Then you go into the last week. The Eagles need to set up this week where, hey, we clinch the division. Then we can pretty much formulate our own bye week in the last week of the season. Obviously, there might be conference rankings on the line, but the Vikings are going to play the Lions, so that is huge. And if the Eagles could potentially have their own bye week in week 18 and go into the playoffs fully healthy, I think that would be amazing for this team. So whoever it is, hopefully they're ready to go. It's probably not going to be Jalen Hurts. However, Cowboys have a major injury as well, which could definitely, change the shape of how this game looks. All right. Lastly, Nick Sirianni apparently had a blow-up moment with Zach Ertz after the game and apologized after the two were separated by Big Dom. Apparently, Ertz took exception to a comment that Sirianni made about his game performance, pretty much saying something like, "You didn't impact the win at all over us." And apparently it was completely blown out of proportion. There was a video going around. They barely even got in each other's face. But of course, the media wants to publicize this and make it something that it's not. Zach Ertz talked to his media today and says that the reported kerfluffle, what a word, with Nick Sirianni was, quote, blown way out of proportion. Zach Berman posts the quote here. "Nick and I had a great relationship when I was there. We still have a great relationship. I think it's definitely been blown out of proportion. We spoke. We're good. There's no ill feelings on my part. Him and I are fine. Everyone knows how I feel about that place and that building." Listen, man, we love Zach Ertz, and, he's with the Commanders. He's having a good season. Shout out to him. I don't think we need to make this more than what it is, right? Nick Sirianni has done a great job since the bye week. The Eagles are fine. Let's move on. Good to hear them clear this thing up before it gets out of hand, before, WIP starts going on the record like, oh, do we have a coaching problem? Do we have this and that? Eagles are fine. One focus is the Cowboys. One focus is clinching the division, and we'll see if they can do it this weekend. Do you think they can? Who do you want to see at quarterback? Give me all your thoughts down below. And as always, appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That being said, I'll catch you on the next one. Also, real quick, let's go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsor of today's video. It is the great BetMGM. Enjoy all your favorite sports like never before at BetMGM. Sign up using our code ATOZPA and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you do not win your first bet. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to parlays, live bets, player props, and daily boosted odds specials. And with BetMGM at your fingertips, every play and every game matter more than ever. So sign up today with the bonus code ATOZPA and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you do not win your first bet. Brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Download the app today. Please gamble responsibly.